Imagine a secret, buried for 50 years. What if the ghost haunting a small town wasn't a spirit, but a killer hiding in plain sight? It began on a sweltering July night. Sarah Jenkins, just 18, vanished from her bedroom. The window unlocked. Her bed undisturbed. A half-read book lay open on her nightstand. No forced entry. Police found nothing. Not a footprint, not a dropped button. A perfect vanishing act. The community gripped by icy fear. Every shadow held a threat. Every unfamiliar car a suspect. Weeks bled into months. Search parties scoured the woods. The lake was dredged. Flyers, once vibrant, faded on telephone poles. The case went stone cold. Sarah's story became a chilling whisper, a local legend. The ghost in the attic, they said, forever searching for peace. Decades later, the old Jenkins house saw new owners. A young couple full of plans. During their attic renovation, dust motes danced in the forgotten light. A loose floorboard creaked underfoot. Beneath it, hidden away, a small leather-bound diary. Most entries were teenage dreams, but on the very last page, hastily scrawled, a cryptic message. He watched. From the attic window. Never told. The message, initially dismissed as childish paranoia from a bygone era, now held new, terrifying weight. It landed on Detective Miller's desk. An aging cold case file. The diary, a fragile link to the past. Modern forensics offered a new chance. Digital imaging intensified faint pencil markings. Cryptography, experts deciphered context. A microscopic skin cell, preserved on the worn leather cover, yielded precious DNA. Genealogical databases narrowed vast unknowns. Slowly, painstakingly, a face emerged. A name whispered from the past. The killer was Robert Sterling. The quiet, unassuming neighbor. The man who brought casseroles to the grieving family. The one who helped search parties. His motive, a fit of jealous rage after Sarah rejected his advances, a dark impulse concealed for half a century. The arrest shocked the sleepy town. Sterling, now in his 70s, offered no resistance. In court, Sarah's sister, now a grandmother, sat in the front row. Her tears, after 50 years of silent pain, finally flowed. Not from sorrow, but from release. Justice, slow and arduous, had arrived. Time cannot bury every truth. Science, persistent and unforgiving, will always seek to illuminate darkest corners. The attic's secret, once a ghost story, became a testament to the enduring power of justice, finally catching a killer hiding in the shadows of a perfect crime. The sun dipped low over Willow Creek, painting the quaint Main Street in hues of orange and rose. It was June 12, 1973. Emily Hayes, barely 19, hummed softly as she locked up the sugar and spice diner. The scent of stale coffee and cinnamon rolls clung to her uniform. She waved to old Mr. Henderson, perched on his porch swing, watering can in hand. He tipped his hat. Everyone knew everyone in Willow Creek. It was that kind of town. Tonight her heart beat a little faster. Jimmy Carter was waiting. A drive out to Miller's Pond. Maybe a picnic basket, she thought, recalling the homemade apple pie tucked in her fridge. Simple pleasures. Her laugh was a melodic chime, easily heard across the town square. Her dark hair, always a little wild, framed a face lit by bright, curious eyes. She dreamed of big cities, of art schools, of a world beyond Willow Creek's gentle embrace. But for now, Jimmy, Miller's Pond, and the promise of a future were enough. She walked briskly, her canvas sneakers scuffing the pavement. The porch light of her family's modest colonial house glowed warmly. Her mother, Sarah, would be kneading dough in the kitchen. Her father, Thomas, lost in a newspaper. Little brother, David, probably wrestling with homework. A normal Tuesday evening. A comforting rhythm. She pushed open the screen door. "I'm home," she called, dropping her keys onto the hall table. "Dinner's almost ready," her mother's voice floated from the kitchen. "I'm heading out with Jimmy," Emily replied, already halfway up the stairs. "Be back before curfew." A quick change. Her favorite floral sundress. A dab of lilac perfume. She peered into the mirror. A flash of anticipation. This was her life. Full of possibility. The old Ford Cougar pulled up precisely at 7:00 p.m. Jimmy honked twice. A familiar sound. Emily grabbed her picnic basket. She blew a kiss to her mother through the kitchen window. "See you later." The engine purred away from the curb. The taillights glowed red, then faded into the twilight. A final glimpse of Emily Hayes. The clock on the mantel ticked. Sarah started to fret. "She's never this late." Thomas shushed her. "They're just kids." Lost track of time. 11:00 p.m. Sarah was at the window. David stirred in his sleep, oblivious. Panic blossomed. Jimmy's number rang unanswered. His parents, roused from sleep, were equally bewildered. Their son hadn't returned either. The phone rang in the quiet house at 1:30 a.m. It was Sheriff Brody. No sign of the car. No sign of Emily. The sun rose the next morning, but its warmth felt chilling. The town awoke to a different reality. Missing posters sprung up overnight. Faces, young and hopeful, stared from lampposts. Search parties formed. Volunteers scoured the woods around Miller's Pond. They dragged the lake. Not a single footprint out of place. The air grew heavy with unspoken fears. Whispers replaced laughter. Doors were locked a little tighter. Parents hugged their children a little longer. The initial hope, fierce and desperate, slowly withered. Days bled into weeks. Weeks into months. Emily Hayes vanished. Jimmy Carter vanished. Without a trace. Willow Creek was never truly safe again. A chilling darkness descended. Emily's bright laugh became a haunting echo. A ghost of what was, lost forever. The quiet house on Elm Street remained silent, eternally waiting. The front porch light stayed on, perpetually, a silent beacon for a daughter who would never return. The attic door in the Hayes home creaked sometimes in the wind. A forgotten space. But in that forgotten space, a truth waited. For 50 long years. A secret kept by a shadow. A killer hiding in plain sight. A family held onto grief. And somewhere a clock kept ticking. And somewhere a clock kept ticking. The autumn leaves swirled, red and gold, on October 12, 1973. Sarah Jenkins, 17, kissed her mother goodbye. A Friday night movie. She never came home. The front door of the Jenkins house stood ajar hours later. A gentle breeze pushed it inward. No forced entry. No signs of struggle. Just an empty silence where a vibrant teenager had been. The coffee table held her favorite book, face down. A half-eaten apple lay beside it. Panic clawed at the community. Where was Sarah? The police arrived. Detectives combed every inch. Neighbors whispered. Fear became a constant companion. The woods behind the Jenkins home, usually a place of childhood adventure, now seemed to hold dark secrets. Every day hope dimmed. Every lead withered. Sarah Jenkins had simply vanished. A perfect crime. Helicopters roared overhead. Search parties trudged through fields, calling her name. Posters, faded by rain, became ghostly reminders on lampposts. Detective Miller, A young man then carried Sarah's photo in his wallet. He chased shadows, interviewed everyone. The case file grew thick, but it was hollow. The town, once so secure, now felt vulnerable. Parents locked their doors, checked on their children hourly. The initial frantic energy slowly bled into a dull ache. The case went cold. Sarah became a legend, a whispered tale, a ghost in the collective memory of a town that never forgot her, but could never find her. Miller retired, haunted by the unsolved mystery. 50 years later, the old Jenkins house sold. New owners, the Hayes family, began renovations. Dusty, forgotten spaces. Hayes, clearing cobwebs in the attic, noticed it. A loose floorboard tucked under a sagging beam. Curiosity tugged. He pried it open. Inside, nestled amongst ancient insulation, lay a small, tarnished silver locket. His breath hitched. Everyone knew it vanished with her. Why was it here? He held the cold metal. Inside, almost invisible, a single scratched initial, A. The locket went to the cold case unit. Detective Alina Reyes studied it under harsh light. A meant nothing, but forensic science had evolved. A microscopic speck, a smudge on the locket's clasp, mitochondrial DNA, a touch long ago, and something else, a faint trace of rare pollen, a very specific, almost unique species, from an old, cultivated garden. The DNA sample was minute, but a family tree could be built. Genealogical sleuths traced branches, connecting the unknown touch to a living relative. A distant cousin. The pollen trace led them to a handful of properties in the region. One house standing for decades, owned by the same family. A familiar face from old news clippings. The gentle man who'd consoled her parents. Who'd helped search. The locket wasn't lost. A motive emerged. Sarah had stumbled upon Arthur's hidden, devastating secret. The knock came softly on Arthur Jenkins' door. He was 82, frail. His eyes, still kind, widened in disbelief. The arrest was swift. The news shattered the quiet town. Sarah's younger sister, now an old woman herself, sat in the courtroom gripping a tissue. The locket, the DNA, the pollen, wove a tapestry of truth. A truth buried for half a century. Arthur confessed. His secret, his motive, his crime. Sarah, a curious niece, had simply seen too much. The verdict was swift. Justice, finally, bloomed in the withered soil of grief. The attic's secret had echoed through time. A speck of skin, a unique pollen, silent witnesses to an unspeakable act. The ghost in the attic wasn't a spirit. It was the relentless, undeniable truth. Time could hide many things, but it could not extinguish them forever. The past always found a way to reach out. The attic breathed cold. 50 years of dust settled like a shroud. John and Sarah, newlyweds, saw potential. They just bought the old Miller place. They didn't know the attic held a ghost, not of the spectral kind, but of a forgotten life, violently ended. Sunlight, weak and hesitant, pierced a grimy window pane. John pulled a loose board. A hidden cavity. His heart thumped. His fingers brushed against cold metal. He pulled it out. Inside, nestled amongst yellowed lace and brittle photographs, lay a small, ornate wooden box. Its wood was dark, intricately carved. A tiny ballerina, frozen mid-pirouette, adorned the lid. John wound the key. A hesitant, tinny melody tinkled out, stopping abruptly. The mechanism was old. No secrets, they thought. Just a dried flower, pressed flat between layers of velvet. A strange bloom. Deep violet petals, almost black at the edges. And tucked beneath it, a tiny rolled scroll of parchment. Hand-tied with a faded silk ribbon. Sarah unfurled it gently. Her eyes scanned the elegant, looping script. It spoke of longing, of a secret garden, of a promise whispered under a crescent moon. He would wait there for me, she read aloud, her voice soft. My only love, a romance. A clandestine affair. That's what they assumed. Perhaps the Miller girl hadn't vanished. Perhaps she had simply eloped. A youthful escapade. A different kind of secret entirely. John felt a strange chill. This wasn't their story. This was someone else's. He tucked the scroll and the flower back. He would contact the local historical society. Maybe an old love letter could offer comfort to a distant relative. He almost put the box back in the cavity. But Sarah hesitated. Something about the flower. Its intense, unusual hue. Have you ever seen a flower like this? She asked. She plucked it out. A faint, almost imperceptible smudge marred the back of the parchment where the flower had rested. Like dried blood. They called Detective Harding, the cold case specialist. He'd barely glanced at the music box. Another sentimental find. Until he saw the flower. His eyes, weary from decades of dead ends, sharpened. He remembered that flower. Or rather, a vague, almost dismissed reference in the original Miller case file. A similar, rare pollen, found near the old logging road where Agnes Miller's scarf had been discovered. A trace that had always baffled investigators. No such flower grew naturally in the region. The smudge on the parchment was minute. Invisible to the naked eye, really. But under the unforgiving lens of modern forensic technology, it told a different story. It wasn't blood. It was a single epidermal cell. A speck of human skin. Yet everything. This fragment, too small for analysis back then, now held the power to shatter a half-century of silence. It was rushed to the lab. Every piece of equipment, every specialized program, brought to bear on this impossibly tiny clue. They cross-referenced it with existing DNA databases. Then a bold, unprecedented step. Genealogical research. Connecting the fragment not directly to a known offender, but to a family tree. The ghost in the attic wasn't a spirit. It was the truth, waiting for its moment. The flower, the smudge, the whisper on parchment, they all began to sing a new, horrifying song. The music box wasn't a symbol of lost love. It was a silent witness. Its broken melody, finally given voice, played a grim tale of betrayal. The hidden truth began to unravel, thread by agonizing thread. The secret garden wasn't a place of romance. The faint, almost imperceptible whisper from inside the music box wasn't a spirit. It was a scientific marvel. Lab technicians, meticulously disassembling the antique mechanism, discovered it. Tucked deep within the tiny gears, a microscopic fiber. A single strand of hair. Decades of dust had protected it. Time had preserved it. Forensic genealogists, the new bloodhounds of justice, went to work. The hair yielded DNA. A partial profile. A distant match at first. The family tree, once a comforting tapestry, began to fray. It pointed to a branch long neglected, a shadow figure living on the fringes. It led to the attic. Old Man Hemlock. That's what they called him. Eleanor's Uncle Arthur. A known eccentric. He'd lived in the attic for 50 years. Everyone knew he was up there. They brought him food, left him alone. He was a fixture. A harmless presence, barely seen, rarely heard. He was just Arthur. The DNA profile was irrefutable. It matched Arthur, the man everyone dismissed as a harmless eccentric. The ghost in the attic. He wasn't a witness to the secret. He was the secret. Investigators swarmed the house. The attic, once a dusty sanctuary, became a crime scene. Hidden beneath floorboards, a tarnished silver locket. Inside, a faded photo of Alina. And behind it, pressed flat, a crude, childish drawing. A girl laughing in a garden. And a small, dark figure lurking behind a tree. His confession wasn't shouted. It was a whisper. A rambling, broken tale of obsession. Unrequited love for his niece. A desperate plea for her affection. A fit of rage when she spoke of another. He hadn't meant to. The community reeled. The quiet, almost invisible man. He had been there all along. Alina's parents, long past, had died without answers. Her siblings, now elderly, wept with a mixture of horror and relief. The ghost in the attic wasn't a spectral warning. It was a monstrous truth. Arthur Hemlock was arrested. The news ripped through the small town like a wildfire. His trial was swift. The chilling confession. It was all laid bare. The verdict was guilty. Justice, a cold, hard stone, finally settled. 50 years of unanswered questions. 50 years of restless nights. The garden, now a place of closure, was tended with a different kind of reverence. The music box, once a symbol of tragic beauty, became a grim reminder of a truth hidden in plain sight. Alina finally had peace. The ghost in the attic was gone. But the chilling truth of his secret, his hidden life, would forever haunt the silent corners of the town. The whispers changed. They no longer spoke of a spectral presence. They spoke of the quiet man upstairs, the shadow among them, the killer who lived half a century unseen, unheard, a ghost in the attic, until the music box sang its final, devastating tune. The truth, it seems, has no expiration date. It merely bides its time. Sometimes for decades. Sometimes for half a century. Alina's ghost was never in the attic, not in the spectral sense the town once feared. The true specter walked among them, breathed their air, wore a convincing mask for 50 years. The music box, once a child's treasured joy, became a grim, unwitting witness. It sat dormant, a relic of a life violently cut short. Then, in the quiet of a cold case review, it sang. Its final, devastating melody wasn't one of sorrow, but of revelation, a crescendo of justice. This case stands as a stark, chilling reminder. Our past is never truly past. It leaves indelible imprints. A stray fiber caught in a hinge. A microscopic smear beneath a floorboard. A faded memory, etched not in a mind but into an old possession. We construct walls of silence, believing they will hold. But time is a relentless architect. It erodes, it exposes, it ultimately unveils. Modern science, with its tireless pursuit, illuminates the darkest corners. It makes the invisible visible. It gives voices to the long silenced, translating forgotten whispers into irrefutable fact. The killer lived a full life. He ate, slept, perhaps even built a family, carrying this monstrous secret, this chilling burden deep within. He believed he was safe. The perfect crime, meticulously executed. But perfection is a fragile illusion. One careless act, a moment of forgotten consequence, a single note from the past, amplified by today's technology, shattered it all. Justice isn't always swift, but it is persistent. It is a force that echoes through generations, demanding to be heard, demanding accountability. Alina finally rests. Not because a spectral presence was appeased, but because a very real evil, a tangible shadow, was dragged into the unforgiving light. The attic is silent now. The real ghost is gone. This story makes us wonder. What other secrets lie dormant in forgotten spaces? What other truths wait, patient and cold, to be unearthed? What echoes from our collective past still linger, unseen, unheard, ready to finally sing their devastating tune.